Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Rank Class. This week I'm going to be talking about schools. I'm going to be talking about learning in schools. I often get the questions asked, why do we have to learn this when I'm teaching in schools? And I can also see it's something that people ask on Reddit. So I thought that I would make an episode about why we often are taught what we are taught. So when we are talking about teaching, we are talking about two things. We're talking about things that you're being taught, that you know of, and then there's hidden stuff behind that you don't know of. And I often work with the hidden stuff. It might not be obvious what I'm doing when I'm doing it, but you learn something from it even though you don't know it. So the first one where you actively know what you're learning is when you're sitting in class and a teacher say, now you have to spell this word, you have to do this thing in math. And it's very forward because you know exactly what you are going to do and what you need to do. And you do think that that's it, but in all those active learning moments, there's actually hidden learning behind it all. And often there is some measurement from the government about what the hidden learning also have to be. So let's start with a question about learning to speak your own language. When you are doing that, you learn to write, read, and speak your language. And while doing so, you might be taught how to analyze a text and how to find clues in a text. And some teachers do it without you actually knowing it. Others, especially in the later classes, will actually tell you that you have to find these hints and clues in the text and you have to go around it. And when you become good at it, you will be able to find out what the main plot of a story is by basically just going down a few pages. You might be good at finding out what the clues are and what the text are trying to tell you of a story. And if there is a kind of moral or something in the story, you could also become good at finding that. And by learning that, you actually become better at doing your reading when you're reading news or when you're watching the news or reading books at home, because it gives you an understanding about how it all flows and works. But often you don't really realize it. And you can actually use it in all the other stuff that you do. Because as soon as you learn to master the language that you are native to, other assignments becomes easier because you might be able to understand the assignment better. Sometimes teachers or books are not that good at actually telling you what to do. It can be cryptic at times. And I have even been standing at exams and reading out something in an assignment and I didn't understand it as the teacher, and I had to guess what I believed they had to do because no one knew what they wanted on that question because we didn't have the answers. And it's just crazy when you do stuff like that. Then we report it and then they changed it for the next year, but it's still something that you have to learn to be able to do well. So there's a lot of hidden learning in just learning to read, write, and spell in your language. So people are often mad at math because math can be hard for people. And at least now we are beginning to know that there's more than one way to learn stuff. Back in the older days, we only had one way to learn stuff. And it was from a mathematic and logic point of view we had to learn stuff. Now we know there's more than one type of learning and there's more than one type of intellect. So we have become a bit better of doing that. It's still a long way there, but I know a lot of teachers who actually knows several different ways of teaching one single thing, so that if you need to touch something, you will be able to do that. If you need to read it just, then you can do that. Some need to paint or listen to music to understand it. So there's a lot of different ways to learn it. And I applaud all the teachers who are able to actually get it done, because it takes a lot of effort trying to pull all the different types into one type of teaching. But when you're talking about math, a lot of people get mad because it can be very hard. And some of the stuff I, at times myself when I was young, didn't understand why I had to learn. But now when I actually learned about all the hidden learning behind, I have a new point of view on math. I am okay at math. I'm not the best, but I'm okay at it. And it's amazing for me to see how math can actually help you learn to analyze stuff as well and calculate stuff in your head. And then it also teaches you critical thinking, and it begins to teach you how stuff moves ahead of time. Like when you're playing chess, you have to think forward. Math kind of do that as well, because you have to get to the end of something. So you have to think forward about how do you get to the end from this starting point. So in math, there is a lot of hidden learning, and it is important that we learn it. One thing with math I do wish we learned more actively though in schools is actually how to make a budget, how to make sure you have enough money when you get older and begin to make your own money. Because you could easily put that into some of the assignments that you actually do. So kids learn that instead of them having to find out the hard way when they get adults. But there really is a lot of learning in it. And it also helps you learn risks and calculations of probability. If you are having a teacher, for example, an assignment where you have to calculate something with dice. While rolling a dice, then you are just pointing down the numbers, but you are slowly beginning to learn that the numbers are random because it's on a die. So you're beginning to learn about what the probability is of something landing on a 6 instead of a 1. And all of this is hidden behind the active learning. You might not be actively aware of this happening. So one of the things that I teach in a lot is the social part of a life. My teaching is about making this class work, where they can talk to each other, play with each other, and function together, and where there is no bullying and no one is left behind and stuff like that. And I do have a lot of activities I do in classes depending on what the class needs to be done. I even made some activities for language learning and for math. And I actually tried one of them once, and the kids had no idea what they were learning, because I asked them afterwards, what did you just learn from this activity we did outside where we ran around and did stuff? And they said, well, we played, we had fun. And I asked them again, but what did you learn? And then began to tell about, well, we learned how to take turns, we learned this and we learned this, all social stuff. And then I told them, yeah, you learned all that, but you also learned to spell, because they had to spell stuff outside. And one of the kids actually just yelled, oh my God, you cheated us. You made us learn language. And it was so funny. The teacher broke out laughing. So yeah. But I do love to teach. And all the teaching I do is often hidden, because I find activities where I plan some sort of game to play or something like that. But while playing that, I put in social points that they have to cross and teamwork points they have to cross for the game to actually work for them to win or have fun in the game. So without them knowing, I'm teaching them how to be social, how to work in teams, how to be able to discuss something and agree on something, like, for example, the answer to a question in a quiz. And you have to do all this hidden learning every day. And there's actually hidden learning in even just kids playing around outside, because while a group of kids are playing outside, other kids can actually observe them and learn from what they're doing. And that learning is also there, but you are not aware of it as a kid, because as a kid you're just running around playing. But when you see other people, you learn from them. That is why teachers should always keep calm and be cool. Because if you have a teacher that keeps yelling or keeps having outbursts of anger, it is something that will slowly tear down a student and make the class unpleasant, but also they will learn from it. So they might begin to think that for them to achieve this, they have to yell about it. And it's something that I can also see in kids from where I can see something from their parents coming along into schools, where after talking to their parents, I can see that the behavior the kids are having is something they've picked up without the parents knowing from the parents. Because we have hidden learning all over the place. And even as adults, there's hidden learning. When we work, when we drive to work, when we are out on the street, we are learning stuff without actually realizing it, because we are observing the world around us. And if we have been taught well in schools, then our brain will slowly learn stuff from around us, what works, what doesn't work, and what is good. And for that to work, you have to have a good foundation. And to have a good foundation, you have to have had an okay childhood and a good school that actually built the foundation that you're building the rest of your life on. So the next time that you're angry over some assignment in school and you're like, but I'm just going to be a gardener, I don't need this math thing, then try and remember that the math thing is not the entire picture. It's part of a larger picture where you're actually learning a lot of different stuff from that one thing. And due to how schools are under the government has outlined what you have to learn and what culture you have to be learned to. For example, what books to read or what kind of assignments you have to do, because that is also a hidden learning that is happening. Because people learn about their country or about their history from stuff in school. And sometimes you are forced to read a book that has some sort of history behind it and analyze it. And it makes you aware of what kind of country you might be living in or what kind of country that you wish to live in. So I know school can be boring, and I definitely found it very hard when I was a kid. But it is something that we all have to go through, because if we have a good school system, if we have a good foundation for the rest of our lives can improve. And it showed in studies again and again and again how schools help a country become better, how good schools make the country become richer. So don't despair. Remember, everything in school is not something that you have to master. It's not something you have to ace. Some of it can be hard at times, and you can succeed even if you don't succeed in every topic in school. Just remember to be aware that you are trying to be taught something, and it is hard to learn something. It's hard and it takes time, but in the end it will all be worth it. So I do hope you found this episode interesting, and if you want to talk to me about schools, you can go to Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, or Patreon. Give me a message there. You can find me, just type in Rank Class. You can also find me on YouTube. And if you want to listen to other school topics I've made, I think I have a few of them out there already. And you just find them and give them a listen. And I wish you all a very nice day. Bye.